All right, so this notion of jungle Tourette's. It's funny, like it's always been there and it's always existed, but nobody actually put a name to it or a label to it until this guy who called recently. Marty in Norman, Oklahoma did a really good job of explaining what jungle Tourette's is. And in effect, what it is if you hear something or you see something, you immediately react with a jungle reference. Hence, jungle Tourette's. And I'm not making light of Tourette's. But I am making light of jungle Tourette's.
I'm suffering from this jungle Tourette's.
Go ahead, Albie.
I'm suffering from this jungle Tourette's, and it seems that nobody knows what this is except my wife, and it's tearing up our marriage, Jim. It's getting out of hand. I started listening back when you had Vince Neil on.
All right, so anyway, he laid that whole thing out. And he said, it's a real thing. Like nobody knows, when in reality we all know. But he said, it's tearing up my marriage. He apparently has called back now with an update, a follow-up. So let's see. Norman, Oklahoma. Oh.
Good, Jim. Jim, I'd like to thank you for the time. I'd like to thank you for the vine. But more importantly, Jim, I'd like to thank you for the platform that's allowed us to bring jungle Tourette's out of the darkness and into the light. The outpouring, Jim, of support, the cards, the letters, the flowers, it's been tremendous. I had no idea that so many suffered from this. Excuse me, Jim. And Jim, you're absolutely right. There's no cure. So after multiple board meetings with the wife and family last week, the wife finally uttered these words. So I guess it's a lot like global warming. We just have to deal with it. So, Jim, my marriage is back on track. Wrestling is back on the calendar, and I'm no longer struggling with my jungle Tourette's. I own it, Jim. It is what I am. So that brings me to this, Jim. I'm prepared to kick the door down to the jungle conference room and arm sweep the table and bring some straight fire back into the jungle. Because, Jim, when the lion roars, the chimps or the clones hit the trees. So, clones, there's a new sheriff in town. His name's Marty. Marty. Why? Because, Brad, it's played. It's tired. So take that 5-year-old Photoshop banana hammock pic you've been slinging up on the screen every smack off down, bro. Listen, I'll give you respect. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 titles. But, Brad, if you roll all 6 calls back, we can't tell what year it was made. They all sound the same. So get dressed, man. Move out of your mom's basement. Twist the Venetian blinds open and see if there's anything, and I mean anything, you can give the world a value. And Vic and NoCal, bro, 11 years. It's been 11 years. Pull out the porch swing. Get the grandkids and tell them about the good old days. Now, Jim, the Cablinasian's definitely one of the jungle's OGs. There's no doubt. But listening to his smack-off call this year was like sitting through a Cher concert. It was painful. So, see, Sonny, take...
That's not a good call. No. You don't like that call. I don't like that call. Not a very good call.
So good news, bad news. The good news is, Marty, you brought to light something that a lot of people struggle with, but it's been taboo. Jungle Tourette's. You brought that to light. So that's good. And I thought you were going in the right direction when you were talking about how the outpouring of support has been absolutely incredible. Had a meeting, boardroom meeting with the wife and the fam. They all understand. We've all come together. Wrestling is back on the calendar. It's fine. It's good. I'm a spokesperson for this. There may not be officially a cure, but there's a lot of time and research and money going into finding a cure for jungle Tourette's. So whereas we don't have a cure today, we will at some point. That's good. But then, Marty, and because you're so philanthropic about the whole thing, right? So altruistic, sharing your story and letting others know that they are not alone. But then it took a turn. Then you want to take a run at the GOAT. Then you want to take a run at a former champ. Then you want to take a run at another guy who could claim status or ownership of GOAT status. And then you started to cough. And then you kept coughing. And then you started to feel yourself. And then you got run. This is the problem, man. there's something else that we're dealing with here. It's not just jungle Tourette's. It's jungle intoxication. People get intoxicated. I've seen this many, many times. When you come out of nowhere and you come on the air, because whereas most of you have nothing to add, no offense, I wish you did. Every once in a while, there is that one person who will come out of the woodwork and hit big on that first call. And then they're just drunk with it. They're just drunk with it. They're blasted. They're wasted. They got the reaction they were looking for, or even reaction that they had no idea was coming. And then they can't wait to get that feeling again and again and again. That's you. So then you come back in and it goes badly. And you're like, you know what though? I'm going to chase that feeling some more. I'll make that third call. And then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. I've seen this a million times. It's like the worst thing that you could do is walk into a casino in Vegas for the first time and win. Win. It's like the worst thing that could have happened to me in horse racing was I won my first race, because then you get the drug. Win! Then you get intoxicated. Win! Then you think it's easy. Then you convince yourself, I'm good at this. Like take Marty. Marty came up with a hook, jungle Tourette's. It went well for him. He was celebrated for it. And I guarantee I know the mindset, because I've had the same mindset in horse racing as an example. And I've done this show for so long and I've seen it so many times before. You come in, you have some positive reaction, and you think to yourself, I'm good at this. I mean, did you hear that guy? That guy played off of one pretty good call, and in the very next call is trying to take on Bratting Corona, the greatest sports talk caller ever to any show. Literally, he's the GOAT. And my man Marty is like, hey, that jungle Tourette's thing was pretty good. In fact, that was damn good. In fact, I'm damn good. I'm coming for him. You know, there's a way to build this thing. There is no hack. There's no shortcut. And frankly, nobody's that good. I mean, even Brad made an unforgettable first call. A better first call than Marty's first call. But even Brad needed time before he became, quote, the BIC. So just be careful with that, man. Build that thing out. There are no hacks. There are no shortcuts. And believe me, if you had the kind of game whereby you could make one call and then come for the souls of the best to ever do it, we would know of you already. You would have shown up already. So just be careful with that, man. Or, yeah, like no names mentioned, Eric and Orlando could have walked off on that flight deck gloss and been a legend. Or if you're really self-aware, and nobody is, but if you're really self-aware and you know you caught lightning in a bottle, do just that. Walk the hell off. Walk the hell off. To me, I'm not going to see you as a one-hit wonder. I'm going to see you as smart. Except my man, like I said, once you get a taste, that's why they say don't try crack. Because if you do it once, you might become addicted.
Crack
I think that's what they say about crack. I don't know. I've never tried crack. And you have my word. I never will either. You know why? I'm not a crack guy. I'm not about that life. This may come as a surprise, too. I've also never tried meth. I just know these things. You know why? Because I hear things like, if you do, you'll get immediately addicted and die. Now, I'm not saying getting addicted to Jungle Run will kill you, but it can go badly. It could maim you. And for the record, I'm also not a heroin guy. Never did that. I know that you never want to say never, but I can look you right in the eye and tell you, I will never do heroin. I will never do crack. I will never do meth. Now, I did say, yeah, but Rome, weren't you the guy who last hour said you're willing to try anything? Yes, guilty, you got me. I'm willing to try anything once except heroin. That's it, Rome. I've been listening 25 years and had your back on everything, but that's the last straw. You're coming at me for heroin? Yes. Anyway, I should have been tighter in explaining this, but I want to make this very clear. Be careful. one racked call out of the blocks does not mean that you're in Brad's class or even Vic's class or the Cablinations class. Did you even get a golden ticket? No. So you're not on the big stage. You're not in the arena. You got racked. You had a pretty good take. God, I've seen this a million times. Just drunk on the run. But then again, I understand it, right? Like if you're largely anonymous and nobody knows who you are, and then all of a sudden people are blowing you up on the show and on social, I can see how you'd get caught up. But what I'm saying is don't. All right, are we good? Many of you came in to kill Marty during the last break. Like I thought that I made the point myself, but apparently not well enough because a lot of you wanted to weigh in and help me make that point. So before we turn the page on this completely, let me read some of this reaction. And then we'll be back to what we're normally doing. 12 Wood is in. 12 Wood says, Marty, Marty, Marty! No one brings a knife to a gunfight. Start smacking on Matt in L.A. Then work your way up to Cal. Then Matt in Van, etc., etc. Thoughts and prayers for your jungle Tourette's, though. Jamie in Green Bay says, quote, in addition to jungle Tourette's, Marty also has diarrhea of the mouth. Diarrhea of the mouth is an extremely underrated phrase. It does not get enough credit. Just the image of somebody opening up their mouth and volumes of diarrhea pouring out. Shafe in Buffalo writes, Marty was headed in the right direction, then his jungle dementia kicked in. At Near Todd writes, it sounds like Marty also has a severe case of jungle delusions of grandeur. I like all these diagnoses now. Apparently he's suffering from a lot more afflictions than just jungle Tourette's. Diarrhea of the mouth, delusions of grandeur. Mark Haskell 20 tweets, hey Jim, is Marty's jungle Tourette's, Jim, turning him into Jeff in Richmond, Jim? What a Johnny Idiot Face, Jim.
Johnny Idiot Face.
Johnny Idiot Face. How's that for a gloss? Hey, Rome, not sure what you're talking about. We have never seen a clone nosedive the plane on the third call. Regards, Gavin.
The show is so much better when you're not on the controls. Anyway, Rome, I need to talk about something I saw on Twitter the other day. One of those boomers charging at me is good old Manny and Oxnard. I advise staying in your cave on... Sorry, Rome, messing up there because I'm a stupid 16-year-old.
No.
So Gavin was another one of those guys. Not another one of those guys, but another one of those kids. Gavin comes in as a either 15 or 16-year-old, and you don't get a lot of that. You know, as you might imagine, the show starts to skew a little older as I get a little older, and I'm trying to reach out to a younger audience. So when I get a kid who's 16 who understands what we're doing, who embraces it, like I'm about that. I like that. So he came in, he made a good first call, then he tried a couple of other calls, and then it's almost like he remembered, well, wait a minute, I'm 16, and there's 16 billion people listening. And then he flamed, and then tried to throw the card that, hey, Rome, I'm just a 16-year-old kid.
Sorry, Rome, messing up there because I'm a stupid 16-year-old.
Actually, a stupid 15-year-old. And we haven't heard much from him since. I mean, to be fair, he may be in school, where most teenagers are during the day. Hey, Rome, did Marty and Norman try to parlay his lame jungle Tourette's call into a smack-off call to call out one of the best callers in the history of the show? Wow. And I thought Rid had a big head and thought a lot of himself for no reason. Eric in Colorado. That's fair, Rit. I'm going to let that stand. Objection overruled, Rit. Sustained. And Vinny, quote, that's not a good read. Not a very good read.
No.
Well, we've made our point.
I don't like that call.
Get drunk on one good call, because that's all that is. One good call.